Once at the top of the staircase, the group found themselves back on an arid savannah. Requiem pulled the rug out from under his arm and unrolled it on the floor where it sat motionless. Looking at Urasil, Requiem said, "Come on then, Grand Master. What are we supposed to do? This archaic thing is your speciality, right?" Sniffing learnedly, Urasil looked at the carpet and then back at Requiem. "Actually, woven Requiem, since you're a member of the Weavers' Guild, I think that you are best placed to deal with it." "What does that welcome pack thingy say?" he said, wagging his finger at Requiem's suit pocket. "Carpet discount. What to look for in a fine carpet. Foreign carpet valuations. How to care for your carpet in 9 easy steps. No, I'm not seeing anything about flying. No, wait. Here. Free joining gifts." Requiem strode around as he read aloud. "Thank you for choosing the genuine flying carpet as your exclusive free joining gift. This carpet can be used by any Akatsuki who already possesses the ability to fly." "Oh, great. Like we have any of those," said Requiem despairingly. "Simply sit on the carpet and fly as you normally would. The carpet will levitate, extending the user's flying ability to allow the transport of passengers. Warning: the forces used to fly degrade the carpet. The time to total weave degradation is dependent on many factors and thus cannot be predicted. Don't drink and fly." "Damn," said Gio as he pounded his fist into his palm. "I so thought we were onto something there." Urasil was not so concerned. Heights was certainly not for him. "At least we won't have to worry about falling through the sky without warning due to total weave degradation. But I'm not taking that pitbull monolith either. There has to be another way." Freya walked up from behind Urasil and gently put her hand on his shoulder. "Don't worry, we won't be needing the monolith. I can make the carpet fly." Looking at her curiously, Requiem asked, "Since when can you fly?" Freya looked right back into Requiem's eyes, quashing his curiosity before he could probe any further. "Since I had the need to. Now, don't look a gift horse in the mouth and let's go, shall we?" Freya sat in the middle of the carpet, placing her hands to either side. In trepidation, Urasil sat in front, whilst Keo and Requiem jostled for space behind. Freya closed her eyes and concentrated. The sound of a breeze passing under the carpet was the signal she needed, and, like a rocket, they took off. Freya opened her eyes. The view was spectacular, but only Geo was sharing it with her. Urasil was on his knees, clinging to the edge of the carpet with his eyes closed whilst Requiem's attention was on the compass. "You want to turn left," he called. Freya glided the carpet over to the left, forcing Urasil to grip even tighter as the last of the blood left his face, turning it whiter than the clouds. Once the red compass point was aligned with the north point, Requiem called, "That's it, now go straight." The wind rushed through their hair as they hurtled through the sky. Geo trailed his hands in clouds, trying to hold them as if they were giant white candy floss. Freya was in total control and leaned back with a smile, taking in the sun. The experience was lost on Requiem, who simply stared at the book, determined to get more information out of it. Urasil's knuckles, meanwhile, had turned the same shade of white as his face. It was difficult to tell where all the blood could be hiding, as every inch of him appeared white, even his cloak, but still he would not move. "Can we go higher?" called Geo. "I've always wanted to see the curve of the earth." "Why not?" Freya was elated by the power she had and was able to share with her friends as they soared upwards. In front of them, they could see the earth curve away. Geo stood tall and tried to touch the stars. Even Requiem tore himself away from the book to take in the moment. Hearing the awe and elation, Urasil forced his eyes open. He did not see the earth fall away in front of him, however. He just saw a very tattered-looking carpet, as if it had aged 100 years in just a few hours. Suddenly, sense struck Geo. "Has anyone wondered how we're still breathing, or why we've not frozen to death?" Turning back to the book, Requiem said dismissively, "I'd be more concerned about the fact that we're flying on a carpet. However, seeing as mortal peril has just dawned on you, I'll put your mind at ease. I'm generating a thin, warm bubble of air around us. We'll be fine, as long as you stop stretching it." "Oh, right, sorry," Geo said sheepishly as he darted to the floor. In a shaky voice, Urasil called back to the group. "Breathing is going to be the least of our worries soon." Holding out the chunk of carpet that had come away in his hands, Urasil continued, "Do you have the sudden stop at the end of this very long drop covered too?" "Everyone, jump on Geo, quick! His marshmallow muscles should cushion the fall," cried Freya. For what seemed a sane idea for people flying a carpet, they all jumped on Geo. Their combined weight in a single area of the carpet was too much. It tore beneath Geo, and the ball of limbs plummeted to screams of "Total weave degradation!" "Decorum, please, people. Stiff upper lip and all that," called Requiem in an effort to quell the panic. "We have plenty of time before we hit the ground." Everyone became silent in the hope that Requiem could save them. Due to the masses of energy being generated by their freefall, Requiem was good as blinded. The friction on the air was like a veil of fire, and that gave Requiem an idea. "Whatever happens," Requiem called as he looked down at his friends, "try not to stop breathing." "Oh, great," shouted Geo sarcastically. Requiem held onto Geo with one arm, whilst trailing the other in the wind, and began to absorb all the kinetic energy. The more he took, the slower they became. Requiem was so focused on absorbing energy that, as they fell through the clouds, the water turned to ice and fell as snow. Geo's clothes started to freeze solid. The group could feel the life being sucked out of them, and they began to turn pale. The sound of the rushing wind became a dull ring, and the spectacular view blurred to white. Digging deep within himself, Geo found the will to slowly eke his hand into his pocket and pull out a bright pink box with gold Arabic writing. "Turkish Delight, anyone?" he asked politely, shakily offering them a round. Freya and Urasil mustered what little strength they had left to join Geo in taking a powdery cube of rose Turkish Delight. Each of them was at breaking point. Their arms felt heavy and unwilling to listen to their thoughts. At any moment, they were all going to black out, or worse. Urasil managed to fling his arm at himself, daubing his face with powder. Freya tried to keep her dignity and stared at her hand that clutched her salvation, willing it towards her mouth and a chance of survival. Geo cared little for refinement. If he was going to die blazing a trail through the sky like a comet, he was going to end it on a full stomach. This was the final motivation he needed to fling the Turkish Delights out of the box and towards his mouth. Many rose-flavoured cubes of salvation peppered his face. Some even hit him in the eye, but one at least hit home and entered his gaping mouth. Thankfully for Urasil and Freya, the ricocheting sweets found homes in each of their mouths too. As they began to chew, a survival mechanism kicked in, and their bodies instantly converted the sweets to energy. Despite the plumes of sugary sweet powder that hung around them, like their own personal grey cloud, they now had enough energy to keep breathing. Below them, the canopy of the Amazon rainforest began to come into focus. No one could be sure if what they were seeing was the effect of blurred vision and lack of oxygen, but it appeared that, thanks to Requiem, it was snowing in the Amazon. Many of the trees were covered in a crisp white layer. The closer they got, the slower they became, and the more serene the setting looked. Requiem was not taking in nearly as much energy now, and life was returning to his friends' faces. Thankful to be alive, and transfixed by the beauty of the snow-covered rainforest, everyone, including Requiem, forgot for a moment that they were a huddled mass of 4 people falling through the sky without a parachute. Upon hitting the snow-covered canopy, reality bit back, and they yelled and screamed as snow flew into the air, branches snapped, and vines whipped them in the face on their cascade down through the branches. Still covered in powder from Turkish delights, Keo span onto his back and held his friends close to his chest to act as their shield. Freya gripped Keo's top tightly and closed her eyes. The fright was all too much for Urasil, who returned to his former deathly pale and mentally entered another plane. Requiem, on the other hand, was quite content and admired his handiwork as he looked at the snow-covered scene. Keo became increasingly entangled in vines, slowing him down. Finally, they ended their descent just metres from the ground, tangled in vines, followed by a soft thud as Keo hit the snow and everyone collapsed on top of him. "I didn't think you were serious about using me as an air brake," groaned Keo as he struggled out from beneath the pile. Realising that his body did not resemble any of the many broken twigs that now littered the landscape, Urasil's mind returned and blood flooded his face, turning him back to his usual darker shade of pale. Urasil thanked Keo in his own way, patting him on the side of the arm and saying, "Everyone has their uses. I lend my keen mind, and you give us weight, each vital in their own way." Keo waved his fist at Urasil, but, feeling that he'd snapped enough twigs for one day, walked instead towards Freya and Requiem,